Well, welcome to this video on defeating Islam. This is I think the third video in this series, not on defeating Islam, but really on racism and what I'm calling racist prophets. We have already seen the racist prophet Joseph Smith about 3 videos ago. And the last 2 videos have to do with really the racist character of Adventism in the Lucy Bard story, which was absolutely horrible. If you have not seen that video on the treatment that this woman received in the 1940s, which is absolutely horrible and completely due to racism, you need to look at that video. And then also did some videos, or a video that is, on the crazy racist prophet Ellen White and some of the statements she made. So now here we are at Muhammad, the prophet, again another prophet of Islam. We're going to look at a number of books here in a minute when we go up from here and we go to the screen so you can actually see what's in these books here. Now I'm going to read from you from this one book here. This is a hadith set, and Muslims know what hadith is. This is the Hadith Sahih al-Bukhari, and Muslims know the Sahih, which means most reliable. This is a reliable hadith set. My English set here, this edition, you're going to see I got a different one, translated by Muhammad Mushin Khan, and it's certified by the Holy Mosque of Mecca and Medina as accurate and faithful hadith of Islam. Why I like this one, this translation here, which I've had for a number of years, and I didn't bother putting this one on screen, but I'm going to read to you here from, and you can even zoom in on this if you want. This is in the introduction of this hadith set here, and it says it's a hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari was an imam, a teacher in Islam. So Bukhari is the person. The Sahih al-Bukhari is a expression of the collection that this person put together of all these narrations. In my case, it's a 9-volume set because it's Arabic and English. That's why it's 9 volumes. Here's what it says here at the bottom of this introduction page about Imam Bukhari. And it says, it is said that Imam Bukhari collected 300,000 hadiths. Now, they're just little clips, little sayings. Sometimes they're a little longer, but most of the time they're pretty short, few sentence sayings. He collected 300,000 hadith. He himself memorized 200,000, of which some were unreliable. And then it goes on to say, on the next page here, it says it was a great task for him to sift through forged hadiths from authentic ones. He labored night and day, and although he memorized such a large quantity, he only chose approximately 7,275, of which there is no doubt about their authenticity. So in this set, I have 7,275 hadiths by Imam Bukhari, of which there is no doubt about their authenticity, which is why it says Sahih in terms of hadith. Sahih, most reliable. So to set all this up, and we're going to talk about Muhammad. And Muhammad, as you can tell by the thumbnail slide, he's I call him the slave master. And indeed, he was the owner of slaves. None of our racist prophets before that I know of have owned slaves, but this one does. But what's really important about this, and Muhammad, they went to great lengths to prove Muhammad was a white man. So what I have here, as I read hadith literature, I have a white man who's a slave owner. And that white man is named Muhammad. I'm just going to read from you one hadith. It happens to be in the same volume that I was just reading to you from, volume 1 in my set. This is hadith number 63. Now the hadith numberings are different in different hadith translations. In this translation, hadith number 63 says this. It's narrated Anas bin Malak. While we were sitting with the Prophet in the mosque, a man came riding on a camel. He made his camel kneel down in the mosque, tied its foreleg, and then said, "Who amongst you is Muhammad?" At that time, the Prophet was sitting amongst us, his companions, leaning on his arm. We replied, "This white man reclining on his arm." The man then addressed him, "O son of Abdul Muttalib." So Muhammad is described as this white man laying down over here. So Muhammad is a white man. Now, what you're going to see and what we're going to do here in a minute, so I'm setting that tone here when we go on the screen. We're going to, of course, quote from Islam's book, the Qur'an. We're going to do Surah 33, and you'll know why Surah 33 is important here in a minute. And you are going to see photographs now. This is what you're going to see your photographs from. You're going to see them from these here. And I have, what, 3 of these here are Sahih al-Bukhari hadiths. This one here is a little different in terms of its cover and translation. It was translated a little later. This is another hadith set, Sunan al-Nasi. And we're going to do a quote from that. So we're going to quote hadiths from these 4 volumes and the Quran. So let's start now. Okay, let's continue here with these books that I showed you in the video. We're going to start here with Sahih al-Bukhari. You can see volume 8, and you can see a couple, 3 hadiths on this screen. We're going to look at one. We're going to look at hadith number 6161, narrated. And they all start off like this. Narrated, Abu Bakr. Narrated, Anas bin Milak. That's called the chain of transmission, or in Islam, the isnad in hadith. So we got the chain of transmission, and then here's the message. Allah's messenger, Muhammad, was on a journey, and he had a black slave. Allah's messenger, Muhammad, had a black slave. There it is. Muhammad is a slaveholder. This slave has a name. And he's driving camels fast, and there were women riding on the camels, and Muhammad said to him, hey, may Allah be merciful to you. Oh, Anjisha, drive slowly with the women, the fragile vessels, right? So Muhammad, owner, black slave. Next one, Sahih al-Bukhari. We're going to look at this one hadith here, hadith number 7263. We're not going to bother with the isnad or the transmission, but it says this: I went to the house of the Prophet. And you see that's peace be on him, that's Muhammad. And behold, Allah's messenger was staying in an attic room, and a black slave of Allah's messenger was at the top of the stairs. There it is again, Muhammad, slave owner. Next, not Sahih al-Bukhari this time, but Sunan an-Nisai, and this is a very long hadith here, and you can see that. We're just going to kind of start here, and we can see a man here gave the messenger of Allah a black slave. So gifting slaves also was a very custom in Islam. But you know what happened to this black slave? An arrow came and killed him. And then the people, you can see directly beneath this, said, oh, congratulations, you died, you're going to go to paradise. And Muhammad says, no, sorry, you're not going to paradise, because you took this cloak from the spoils of war unjustly, so you are burning in hellfire. Well, isn't that nice? But nonetheless, what is this? Muhammad is the slave master. We've already seen 3 examples of Muhammad owning slave. Now we're going to look at a very controversial statement that's in the hadith. We're going to go back to Sahih al-Bukhari. We're going to look at hadith 7142. Allah's messenger said, Muhammad said, you should listen to and obey your imam, your Muslim ruler, even if he was an Ethiopian, a black, whose head looks like a raisin. Muhammad used this derogatory term for Ethiopians and called them raisin heads because of their hair and how different it was from Arabian hair. It's not a compliment. It's an insult. Let's look at another Sahih al-Bukhari one. So you might be asking, how is it that all this started? This concept of people as property. We'll look at this hadith here in, again, Sahih al-Bukhari. We're going to look at hadith number 362. We got a war going on here with the Banu Qurayza, a Jewish tribe. Muhammad is very famous in literature, fought against them all the time, killed them, and then what they said at one point, Muhammad did what? He then killed their men and distributed their women, children, and property amongst the Muslims. So how did all this really get started, this idea of slavery? Matter of fact, when ISIS started, there was a big controversy in Islam because ISIS was doing just what you see here on the screen in front of you. They were killing the men and distributing the women and children as property among the Muslims. And Islam was in an uproar going, no, we don't do that in Islam. Au contraire, read your hadith. This is a Sahih hadith, which means it's most reliable, because it's in Sahih al-Bukhari. Remember what I said earlier, 7,275 hadiths are in this very set in front of you, and they are not to be doubted or questioned. This gives us a historical look into what Muhammad did. And Muhammad killed men, took children and women, and said, here's your property. So when ISIS did that, big uproar. But they were just following Islam, and you see the hadith right here in front of you. You know, it was really hard. Saudi Arabia. I picked Saudi Arabia because that's the home of the Kaaba. All right, that's the black cube that Muslims make their pilgrimage to in Mecca, and run around it, you know, at least once in their lifetime. But look what Saudi Arabia. This is off Wikipedia. Go search for yourself. You got the link. Saudi Arabia in 1962. Saudi Arabia. You see that? 1962. Slavery was abolished. Keep reading. It says what? But we still think it exists. And the State Department gives an example from 2005 where they still think it exists. They said what? Saudi Arabia is a destination for men and women from various regions. And I see this all the time in the literature, especially Filipino women. They get them to come work in the Saudi Arabia because economic conditions in the Philippines are anywhere but ideal. So great, they got a chance to, you know, some gainful employment. They go to Saudi Arabia, and I keep reading stories like this over and over and over. They land in Saudi Arabia, and what Saudi Arabians do? Snatch their passport, put it in a safe, lock it up. You ain't leaving. That's why you see the words here, involuntary servitude, because that's what this turns into. So to a certain degree, slavery and this whole concept that you've now seen in Islamic literature has not left Islam. And why is it so hard not to leave Islam? Let's look at the Qur'an. Here's what the Qur'an says, Yusuf Ali translation, that you saw me hold up in the video, about Muhammad. What's it say about Muhammad? Ye have indeed in the messenger of Allah, Muhammad, a beautiful pattern of conduct. There it is. Muhammad is your standard of conduct in Islam. Well, how do I find out what Muhammad did? I read the Quran. I read the Hadith. I read the Sirah, which is the biography of Muhammad. In this case, we just looked at the Hadith. What did Muhammad do in the Hadith? Well, Muhammad had black slaves. Muhammad killed men, took women and children as his property. And the Quran says what? You have indeed in the messenger of Allah a beautiful pattern of conduct. Oh, that's a beautiful pattern of conduct. Follow this. That's why I think it took until the 1960s for Saudi Arabia to get rid of Islam, because they know what Muhammad did and they know what the Quran says. So let's look at last two slides here. Let's look at this verse in the Quran. 3:3, Yusuf Ali, Surah 3, Chapter 3. It is He, this is Allah, who sent down to thee, step by step in truth, the book confirming what went before. The book confirming what went before it. That is the Bible. And he sent down the law of Moses and the gospel of Jesus before this as a guide to mankind. And he set down the criteria of judgment between right and wrong. Here it is again in the Quran telling you Muslims it's okay to read the Bible. Matter of fact, you can trust it. Matter of fact, Allah sent it down. Unless you want to tell me the Bible's corrupt, and then I'm going to tell you your Allah is weak and he can't protect his words. So what argument do you want to use? You either want to believe Surah 3:3 or you want to go to Surah 6:114, 6:115 where it says none can corrupt the words of Allah. Okay, we can dialogue below about that. So my Muslim friend, read your own Quran. What's it say? Allah sent it down. Believe it, read it. Allah sent down the words of Jesus. Let's look at the words of Jesus with slavery in mind. Matthew 7:12-14, the words of Jesus. So whatsoever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. My Muslim friend, Muhammad didn't do that. Muhammad enslaved people, killed the men, enslaved the children, and enslaved the women. I won't get into the inappropriate sexual details on what happened to, how do you figure out what a man is when you go into a tribe, and you're going to have to draw your line in the sand somewhere. And anyway, I'll leave it to your imagination or those of you that want to search, but there was all kinds of things done to the children of captured Muslims to determine death or slavery in terms of their age. So my Muslim friends, read these words of Jesus. Do whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter by the narrow gate, my Muslims friend, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And if you're in Islam, you're on that easy way that leads to destruction. Because your own Quran says, listen to the words of Jesus. You have before you hear the words of Jesus. And those who enter by it, the wide gate, are many. For the gate is narrow, and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. My Muslim friend, it's time for you to do what your Quran says and read the words of Jesus, written in his corrupted holy book called the Bible.